Hey guys, it's Gote here. Before the video begins, I just want to say that if you aren't already subscribed, go ahead and do that. It's completely free and it really helps my channel out. Also feel free to drop a like and comment a suggestion for what I should make some future videos on. If you have any personal stories you would like for me to share on this channel, go ahead and send them to me via my personal email linked in the description below, and I'll be sure to include them in the future. So, with all of that out of the way, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. I'm a civil engineer that has visited a handful of sewage treatment plants over the years. I was at this one plant, and the operator said that a guy was killed and that his body was put down a sewer manhole. His body made its way to the local treatment plant, perhaps through a few pump stations. I wasn't really sure. So, at every plant, there is an inlet station, and this is where the bulk items of the sewage is shifted out as a primary treatment of the water so they don't damage equipment down the line. Unbeknown to the operators, the body sat at the inlet works for about 6 months until the guys who finally did it confessed and told the authorities where they put the body. Now, due to the difficulty of emptying the inlet works and searching for the body, they sent a diver in. The treatment plant serviced about 100,000 people, so stopping the plant and emptying the inlet works wasn't an option, especially since he had been there for so long. The diver's role was to reclaim the head, only to identify the body, which he did. As mentioned, the body must have gone through some pumps which broke the body up, combined with being in sewage for 6 months or so. During the next shutdown, 6 months to a year later, they swept up the remaining bones and gave them to the family. Not the best way to go, rotting in human waste. So I currently work in San Antonio. I worked for a construction company, and really wasn't a sewer worker exactly, but nevertheless, we had to go into sewers. So this one time, I found 7 cat skins in this weird open space that were hung out to dry or something. Like, full-on skinned cats. It was just the skin. Needless to say, we got the hell out of there ASAP. So aside from all the Sunny in Philadelphia references, my father used to work at a sewage plant. So they have this grate/rack machine that the sewage passes through in order to filter out the larger bits. This grate is a series of vertical bars with about maybe an inch or so gap between them. The rake fits right in between the gaps, pulls things up from the stream. Usually it pulls up just lots of thicker toilet paper and other products that don't really break down, but he says that he's found lots of jewelry in there, necklaces mostly since they catch in the system better. He also once found $100 bill. So there have been multiple occasions where the police department had to be called because some bodies were caught in this grate. Sometimes it's full bodies, sometimes it's only body parts, heads, arms, legs, feet, hands, whatever. I don't know. It's one of those jobs that you really never know what you're gonna get each day you come in. Some days it's smooth sailing and you get to find some jewelry, some days are slow and tedious, and others you find body parts of people who were murdered. Sometimes it's really hard for him. I think the idea of these people ending up where waste goes is kind of hard on him. No one deserves to end up like that. I'm a sewer technician in the downtown district of a major city in Washington. We frequently go down into the sewer systems to check for water damage and hobo squatters. The company I'm contracted to usually sends teams of 4 guys with all the equipment, helmet with lights, crowbars, ropes, etc. So a few years back, 4 other guys and myself were sent down into one of the main tunnels for a routine checkup. Nothing out of the ordinary. That is, until we were about halfway down the tunnel. In the distance, a few feet from the platform, one of my coworkers, I'll call him Steve, spots something shiny in the shit water. Being the idiot that he is, he reached over into the shit to try and grab it. He is about 3 feet off and can't quite reach it. So we all spent a few minutes trying to lasso it and pull it in with the rope. Once we got it and brought it back into the platform, we saw what it was. It was a small wooden box with a shiny latch and padlock keeping it closed. The other guys managed to muscle the box open with a crowbar, and inside what appeared to be a human heart. I have no idea how this got here or what its purpose was, but needless to say, we took it straight to the police. We haven't ever gotten any sort of updates. I worked for a pipe technician for a sewer company for about 15 years. It smelled like shit the entire time. Anyways, you get used to it. It's one of the strangest things I ever saw was during a routine maintenance stop on one of the pipelines that we especially had a lot of difficulty with. It was downtown in Denver. So I'm not sure if this was an actual living thing or a conglomerate of multiple living things, but I know there's a video out there somewhere on YouTube that really describes what I'm about to tell you. So there are these things that like to grow on sewer walls, especially sewers with high levels of poop flow and whatever kind of runoff that's particularly nutritious for microbes. So these conglomerates of living things basically look like spider webs, but made of like flesh or something. It's really hard to quantify. So when light hits these things, they shrivel up like scrotums, but in the dark, they kind of like pulsate. Now, I'm not sure if it's alien or a conglomerate of microbials that just like to freak people out, but it's one of the more creepiest things I've ever seen. So my grandfather worked for one of the major sewer companies in New York City. Now, one of the stories he has is particularly sad. So back in the 70s, there were notorious squatters that loved to live in the sewer systems of old New York. In these tunnels, there were frequent gas leaks that liked to make their way into the pipelines due to surface level construction. On one shift, when he was responding to one of these gas leaks in one of these pipelines, he discovered an entire colony of homeless people dead. Because of the gas, it just suffocated them all. There was more than 100, and I know the media did a pretty good job of covering it all up because it never made headlines. It just makes me sad that so many people died and no one really cared. So I work as a sewer worker. I was down in one of the pipes we maintain regularly the other day, just mucking around doing my usual day-to-day stuff, checking valves and whatnot. So I get to this one junction and sort of hear a low rumble, and just as I turn the corner, I see this torrential tidal wave of literal poo coming at me, about waist high and just churning brown. I swear to God, I even saw this big rat mixed in with this junk. Anyways, I pull my PPE down to cover my mouth and eyes and brace for the worst. It hits me and I stumble back a bit, but brace myself against the wall and just hold on. It's over about as quickly as it began, and as I pushed myself up, I noticed that there was something pinned between my hand and the wall. I raised my hand up to look at it and brush some clumped up toilet paper off of it, and I'll be damned, it wasn't that serious, but it sure as hell was scary. Death by poo, not the best way to go. I worked in the London Underground district for about a decade. Along with the drains, we have catacombs that date back thousands of years, and a lot of people go missing every year on a regular basis. Many are homeless, and lots more are just unreported. For those of you who are interested, it is speculated that there is a massive portion of the underground catacombs that are codified as the Black Zone. Now, this zone has never been properly mapped out, and it's only speculative, but there is folklore of that area being supposedly haunted or lurking with demons. Now, I don't really believe in any of that, but it is kind of mysterious when everyone, and I mean everyone, who goes in those zones do not return. There has been some expedition trips that have been more or less successful, but on the whole, no one who goes deep ever comes out. It's one of those mysteries, you know? kind of like Skinwalker Ranch or something of that nature. When I lived in New York City in the 80s, one of those huge main water lines burst and scorned out most of the block. The hole went down about 2 stories, and what was left was like one of those cutaway books of all the services in the streets. It turns out a lot of those sewage tunnels in that area were filled with homeless people, and nearly 50 or I think 60 people died of drowning. It's kind of weird to know that there are people who live under us. It's sad how they can just be discarded like that. The news never reported on their deaths, but I still remember seeing them cart away dozens of bodies. Hey guys, it's Gotea here. Thank you so much for listening to this video. Sewers are one of those things that are really good for urban exploring, but sometimes it gets too creepy. I haven't gone myself, but I'm hoping to one day, especially the Paris catacombs. That is really cool to me. So if you have any personal stories you would like for me to share in a future video, please do not hesitate to send them to me via my personal email linked in the description below, and I'll be sure to include them somewhere in the future. So with all that out of the way, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you mates in the next episode.